How do your people impact your ability to scale and sell? We're going to hear about it from Shawn Freeman, the previous founder of TWT Group, and we're going to talk about the importance of people and culture when you're scaling and selling your business. Stay tuned on Scale Your Business. Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Join me on Scaling Your Business, where I interview leaders who have actually scaled and successfully sold their businesses so you can learn what to do and what not to do. Subscribe and join us as we go through this amazing journey on scaling your business. Hey, I'm Kate Bullock. I'm back here with Shawn Freeman, and we are talking about the scale of his business of TWT and the eventual sell. And in our first episode, we talked about kind of the journey, the mindset of the entrepreneur and what that journey looked like for him. I do want to touch for our audience on the structure of the buyout and then get into the people branding and how that impacted kind of the process.
Yeah.
So tell me about the structure then of the buyout that happened.
Yeah, for sure. So a couple things as an entrepreneur, early in my company, my accountant told me to get a holding company, and so I did that. The interesting part about that is that we didn't actually understand the long-term value of that company and what it could become. If we had, we probably would have set up a family trust at the time and done that instead and saved a lot of tax. So, that was kind of a miss, but didn't know any better, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, if I could rewind time, I would do that. But that's okay. It's all good stuff. So the structure of most deals is, maybe a bit of cash up front, depends on the asset and company. Sometimes companies keep equity because they like what the company that's going to acquire them is doing and can see some upside there. And then there's usually an earn-out portion, right? Where you stick around for a couple of years, you grow their business. Maybe you've got forecasts that you're trying to hit, and so you get rewarded accordingly if you do hit those. And so it just reduces risk for both the buyer and the seller. So that was basically my deal. We had cash, we had equity that I rolled over into the new company, and then I had a 2-year earnout. So based on our service revenue growth, which was we had these forecasts already, we shared them. And then they said, okay, well, if you hit those, we'll pay you, and here's the calculation, how we'll pay you on that. And so that worked out great. And with COVID, our business grew. We nearly hit our forecasts, which is great. I always say I'm glad we didn't hit them, because then I would have felt like I left money on the table. But we were pretty close. We were 95-ish% the way there. So, so our forecasting was great. And that was, and it worked out well. So kind of after 2 years after the deal, another company came in and bought the whole company. The company that bought mine was acquired. And so my equity got paid out there, and my earnout was finished. And so, so I stayed on another year with that company and then decided to take a bit of time off.
That's amazing. I love that because you put equity back into the company, you got bought out twice essentially through that process, because they got acquired again, which is often what is happening. And you see people who are doing roll-ups and a lot of, multiple acquisitions only to pull them together and sell again.
Yeah.
Right. And so being able to kind of capitalize twice on all the efforts that you put into your business is huge. Talk to me a little bit about the people side of things, both internal and in your company. And as I understand from episode 1, we talked about it was actually a relationship that you built that led to the buyout in the first place with a competitor. And so talk to me about culture in your company and the impact it had on your ability to scale and then sell.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting, the rolling equity and actually helped me defer tax as well. So he likes paying tax today, I'd rather pay it tomorrow if I could.
Yeah.
So that's another kind of unintended benefit too. So if you are going to do a deal, it's always advised, pay the money for the tax lawyer, pay the money for the accountant who's been there and done that. Because our agreement actually had, we could have put December 31st or we could have put January 1st, and we put January 1st. And so I actually got, on a lot of the payouts, I got to defer tax for 11 months and 30 days.
Right.
And the market at that time was doing the right thing. And so that money in the bank made me more money than it did the government. So
Yeah.
So those little tiny things, one day difference makes a difference. And if you work with somebody who's done deals, they'll know those little tricks. So
That's interesting.
yeah, that advice had great ROI.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
One day, huge ROI.
Huge ROI. So, yeah, devil's in the details. And so, yeah, back to your question about the team and the culture. And so, our team was like super invested. I was the sole owner, but they really, it was their baby. And so it's funny, when we did the deal, there were some people that were like, oh, okay, this is good. Part of the deal, I made a contingent that the company buying us gave all the employees options. And so that was like, I wanted them to feel like, oh, you're going to have ownership in the new thing. Didn't work out amazingly. It worked out a little bit, but I was hoping for a lot better. So that was important to me, and that's always something you could consider as well. But a lot of people were actually like upset, and they were worried, and they were afraid. And so, we didn't make the decision to sell as a group. It was my decision, and I didn't tell anybody. So maybe not the right move, but it worked out at the end of the day. And so, that kind of the first little bit of the integration, the company just let us do what we always did. And so the team came around. They're like, oh, okay, this isn't just like a buyout and take everything over and we know better than you sort of thing. They actually appreciated what we were doing. So, and that's because we were so strong. We had raving fans. We came to the table with like 85-star Google reviews, and they had, not that many 5-star Google reviews, right? Not that they didn't do good. They just didn't have that built up. But our clients, stood by us. We delivered great service after for at least a year and a half, and they were happy. And so that all really mattered to the team, because they saw that, they it didn't matter what I told them. Because they're like, well, you got to sell your company, and you got a check, and but really setting them up for that success. And so that the culture, again, really, they cared about the business, they cared about the clients, and that showed after they knew about the deal.
And I think because you were there, and it wasn't like they came in and shut the lights off or changed everything overnight.
Yeah.
That there was probably like a little bit of a fear period of the unknown, new owners, but you were there to be able to be like, guys, it's all good.
For sure.
How was the retention after the sale?
Yeah, nobody left for quite a while. Probably at least a year and a half. Everybody stuck around. I also was open with them and said, look, I have ownership in the new business as well, so I'm sticking around, and I did. And so, that gave them some reassurance, but definitely fear up front, like worst case scenario thinking, for sure. And that's what we do as humans, and I can't blame them for that. And at the end of the day, I did really shitty communication prior to the deal. So they didn't know anything. They didn't know anything. They didn't know the reasoning. They didn't really know the company that was coming in. They just got sat down in a meeting on a Friday, and, oh yeah, so now you're part of this company. And then it's funny, like, at that point, it's like I wanted to celebrate. They did not want to celebrate.
Right.
So it was interesting. And I think that integration period is super important. A couple of things that the company that bought us did right is they had a sales kickoff a couple weeks after in Toronto, and they flew the whole team out to Toronto, except for me, because it's funny, we were supposed to close the deal in November, and every deal takes longer than you say it's going to take.
Yep. So
we were supposed to close in November, so I had booked like a February trip to a beach, and that happened to be when that Toronto sales kickoff happened. So I was on a beach because I'm like, I'm not changing those flights, and they were in Toronto, but that was really cool because they got to meet people. They got to see the vision. They got to see like, oh, this is going to be a lot of fun, and these people are good people. So that really helped, I think. And so if I was going to go buy a company, I would definitely architect a plan on how to do that, how to make the team that we're acquiring feel like they're part of the new team.
I think it's almost better that you weren't there.
Yeah.
Like, because then they got to feel like they knew something you didn't, right? And then they're like, well, actually, this is the vision, Shawn. Right? Sure. I'm sure you knew, but like, really, they felt, sometimes when your boss is there, and it changes the dynamic.
Yeah.
right? And just to be able to feel that openness and make the connections without having you there is probably really powerful. No offense, but.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's once you sell a company, you realize how useless you are.
Hopefully.
And it's interesting because we sold in January and then COVID hit. So, and then that's a big distraction, and then even more fear, uncertainty, right, comes into it. But the nice thing is we had an HR department. We had a team to manage all that stuff, right? And so, and then the other thing too is that we had a bigger company behind us, so we were actually able to help our clients even more than if we were on our own still. And so, we went to clients and said, "What do you need?" They're like, "Well, we closed our doors and we can't take $1 revenue in, and that's probably for the next time, who knows how long." And so we said, "Okay, well, we're going to pause your bill and we're going to keep things secure. So we're going to keep doing the things you must have, but then we're going to stop billing you for, let us know when you're back on your feet."
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so pretty cool opportunity there. And so yeah, lots of silver linings. Didn't go perfectly, but
I don't think it ever does.
No.
So
that's business.
That's right. Surprise every day. Your people were integral in the transition and in scaling, getting those 5-star reviews, right? Because that was attractive to your buyer.
Yeah, they knew we were probably the number one competitor in Calgary.
So better not to compete with you.
Yeah. Yeah, be friends. Like,
yeah.
If you're a friend and competitor and you're not trying to backstab me with, I'll charge $5 less, like,
right?
Then we'll get along.
Yeah, totally. There's enough cheese.
Yeah.
There's enough cheese. So the culture in scaling your business, so before you even thought about selling, what did you do to build the culture so that you could scale faster? So you brought people on and they were, in it to win it too.
Yeah, for sure. So we actually rolled out a long-term incentive program, which, if you recall, came out of the book, Built to Sell.
Yeah.
So we put that out there. We wanted people to be incentivized long-term, but also get some money today. So they'd stick with us for a while. When we sold, the company that bought us paid out those all. So people got a little bit of money, didn't lose anything, didn't keep anything on the table. So that was great for them. And then the other thing that we did is we had a pretty flat org structure. We had accountabilities, but we didn't have middle management or anything like that. We were about 25 people at the time. And so we included everybody in decisions.
Yep.
And I realized, probably 5 years into the business, that my job was just like training these people to become leaders, right? So, even the person on the front line, how can they be a leader? How can they be empowered to make the right decision for the customer? We're, at the end of the day, IT services is a service company. We just deliver technology services. And so, and that's what a lot of IT providers miss, is that they have to do the service part of it, right? And so, there's got to buy an adapter. So we're going to order it. It's going to take a week, and then we're going to go back and we're going to fix it. So this thing that it was a $12 adapter takes 2 weeks to fix. And that's not service to me. Service would be this probably comes up pretty often, so you're ready for it. You got some stock in a trunk, or you could just go to the store and get one and come back. And if you have to write off the $12, it's worth it, right? So we actually empowered our team, like, whatever you think is the right thing to do, go and do it. And then, if we have to figure out a process, if it's something that needs to scale, then we'll figure that out later.
Right.
But take care of the client first.
The old WestJet mentality.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. And I think at the end of the day, IT service providers are slowly starting to figure this out.
Yeah.
But a lot of MSP owners operate in that scarcity mindset still. They're like, well, if we do that there, we're going to lose the $12, and they don't think big picture, right? They don't think of the value of the relationship. They also don't think of the costs that you don't see, right? The tech was out there, you notice there's a part missing, has to go back to the office, get someone else to order it. That takes forever. And then once it comes in, the tech goes back out. And so you've got all this wasted time, whether it's driving, gas, expenses, like, when you could just empower that tech to be like, yeah, just go to that store, we have an account, get what you need, right?
Right.
And I think everyone's just afraid, what if they abuse it? Well, if they do, then they don't belong on the team. And you'll find out, and you'll solve that problem, right? So there's, it's interesting. There's scalable ways to create just more bureaucracy and make it harder for people.
Yep.
And that doesn't leave people feeling empowered and like they're trusted. And if you can't trust your team members, then you probably should let them go.
Yes.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
That's usually a really good sign.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about the journey of the sale. We've talked about people and culture. We're out of time, but I do want to touch on brand next time and your brand reputation. And we talked a little bit about that with the reviews. And I also want to talk about sort of that journey to do it again and what you're up to now.
Okay.
So stay tuned. We're going to talk to Shawn about that next episode. Thanks.
Get ready to learn from industry leaders who have scaled and sold their businesses successfully. Learn what to do and what not to do when scaling your business. Don't make unnecessary mistakes when you're scaling your business. Make sure you subscribe to Scale Your Business, and we'll see you next time.